016/071 du 29 septembre 2016 portant organisation et fonctionnement des organes d'administration de l'enseignement supérieur universitaire en ses articles 33 et 34, vu l'arrêté ministériel numéro 167, mesure K-MIN MNB RMMK 2022 du 18 avril 2022 portant désignation et nomination des membres du comité de gestion des enseignements supérieurs universitaires des provinces du Sud Kivu, de la Chopo et du Congo central en République démocratique du Congo, et de l'arrêté ministériel numéro 236 MINESU CARMIN par MNB par RMM par 2022 du 30 mai 2022 portant correction d'une erreur de transcription du nom d'un membre du comité de gestion contenu dans l'arrêté ministériel numéro 167 MINESU CARMIN par MNB par RMM par 2022 et 18 avril 2022, vu l'arrêté ministériel numéro 194 MINESU CARMIN MML par CK par 2011 du 22 juillet 2011 portant autorisation de l'ouverture du troisième cycle en didactique des disciplines en l'Institut supérieur pédagogique de Bukavu, et arrêté ministériel numéro 008 MINESU CARMIN MML par GPK par PK par 2012 du 19 janvier 2012 portant autorisation spécifique d'ouverture du troisième cycle en didactique des disciplines à l'ISP Bukavu, puis l'arrêté ministériel numéro 003 MINESU CARMIN par TLL par MKC par SKP par 2020 du 19 février 2020 pour la création d'une école doctorale au sein d'un établissement de l'enseignement universitaire du Sud Kivu en République démocratique du Congo, vu la décision numéro CI par 02 par 2020 du 16 octobre 2020 portant organisation administrative et scientifique d'une école doctorale en didactique des disciplines des ISP de la République démocratique du Congo et autisme en sigle à l'ISP de Bukavu, considérant d'une part la note circulaire numéro KISP par VR par SP par 002 par 2020 portant inscription sur le troisième cycle DEA de doctorat et qui institue 10 cours en vue de faciliter la mobilité des professeurs et des auditeurs, et d'autre part la décision numéro KISP par PR par CJ par MNGD par 001 par 2024 du 15 décembre 2024 portant institution d'un pôle pédagogique, pour l'organisation des enseignements du troisième cycle dans les études supérieures pédagogiques de la République démocratique du Congo, considérant le rapport de M. MASALAY et le dépôt de son mémoire de DEA attesté par le chef de section de l'aide des sciences humaines sous l'intitulé Teaching Some Aspects of Congolese Culture in English Lessons, a case study of secondary school in KIKWIT. Sur proposition du conseil de la section l'aide des sciences humaines, le comité de gestion entendu décide. Article 1. Sont nommés membres du jury chargés d'examiner les mémoires de DEA en didactique des disciplines de MASALAY comme MASALAY, membres effectifs, professeur ordinaire, et complexe de Kupasa, Homos, de l'ISP Gombe, président, professeur Innocent Kambale, ban ISP Kukabu, secrétaire, professeur ordinaire Boy Obor, ISP KIKWIT, promoteur, Clément Sangaba, Dominique, co-promoteur, membre suppléant, professeur Konu, Mouloua, ISP KIKWIT, professeur Mwaba, Imbala, Berdina, Dominique, article 2. Les secrétaires généraux académiques chargés de la recherche administrative ainsi que l'administrateur du budget sont chargés chaque qui les concerne de l'exécution de la présente décision qui sort ses effets à la date de sa signature, faite à Bukavu le 8 janvier 2026, pour le directeur général et secrétaire général académique, professeur Amissi Sabari. Ainsi dit, nous accordons maintenant la parole au juriste pour la suite de la séance. C'est lui qui préside ces jurys. Je vous remercie.
Monsieur le directeur général de l'ISP KIKWIT, Monsieur le membre du comité de gestion de l'ISP KIKWIT, Mesdames et Messieurs, nous vous invitons à nous mettre debout pour 1 minute de mémoire. En mémoire au feu du chef de travaux Inga, qui fut l'un de la promotion de MASALAY par MASALAY. Je vous remercie. Nous allons nous revenir debout pour chanter l'hymne national. Debout Congolais, debout Congolais, unis dans l'effort, unis dans l'effort de l'indépendance. Et son enfant, l'on a prouvé, et pour les grands, prénom les plus belles, dans la paix, au préparant, allez la paix, nous bâtirons un pays plus beau qu'avant, dans la paix, citoyens. Entonner l'hymne sacré de notre solidarité. Fièrement saluer la même gloire de notre souveraineté. Congo, pays, Congo. Les aïeux, au pays, bien-aimés, nos peuples consolés nous assureront ta grandeur. Prends nos trains pour consoler, prends nos trains qui train, jour sacré, soleil des loin. Jour sacré de l'immortel, serment de liberté, et nous lèvons à notre postérité. Now, we invite Mr. MASALAY, and we allow him 30 minutes maximum presenting the results of his research. Mr. MASALAY, you have the floor.
Okay. Dear President of the Jury, dear members of the jury, ladies and gentlemen, the work I'm happy to present today is the result of observations made in the community of KIKWIT and the area. I observed for a relatively long time that there is a problem of cultural crisis in this community. The behavior of people, their eating habits, the hairstyle, neglect of tradition and of custom, and many other facts prove this, that there is a real cultural crisis. But I'm very much concerned, not with the old community, but with secondary school pupils. I'm afraid they are young. They will be the future of this community, of this country. If nothing is done to stop this cultural crisis, then we lose them. And when we lose them, we lose the culture. And if we lose the culture, we are lost ourselves. That is why I ask these questions. Are secondary school pupils really affected by cultural crisis and loss of identity? If yes, how can we help them to be aware of their culture and proud of their identity? And why should we help them? After these research questions, I asked myself, why then am I interested in such a topic? The topic again. Teaching Congolese cultural aspects to secondary school pupils. A case study of KIKWIT area. Why? I am a teacher. I have been trained in English and African cultural department. And there I am asked to teach not only English language, but also African culture. Also, this topic is well set in my field of learning, and I must do it to contribute to the promotion of our culture, to the maintenance of our identity. You will ask me the objectives of this work. This work has some objectives. Put simply, this paper aims at encouraging the inclusion of culture in the teaching of English language. This is the recommendation of the program, not my recommendation. So, teachers of English who don't teach culture are out of the program. The second objective is assessing some textbooks. To teach English, we use textbooks. I tried to assess some textbooks and see whether they are well adapted to the teaching of culture. And at last, I suggest some ways of teaching culture in English lessons. Therefore, these hypotheses. Since cultural crisis in this area affect people of all ages, all social classes, all educational levels, it might also affect secondary school pupils. To help them learn the culture, or at least some aspect of their culture, teachers of English should include the cultural components in their activities. We have to help young people develop their cultural awareness and identity pride. So, when I was making my research, I referred to many references. I used written sources and I also used oral sources. The written sources that I used, more than 164, are grouped in 3 categories. Some which deal with culture, identity, and language, and all their aspects. Because we could not avoid this, for these are key concepts for us. The second category of textbooks refer to the teaching of English language in this country and in the world. And at last, the third category is about references which insist on the inseparability of the teaching of foreign languages and culture. As to methodology used and techniques for methods of analysis, we used library research method to collect and analyze data on the previous literature. We also use lesson analysis, which pushed us to go and see data in school. We also used structural methods. Structure here being understood as an element of a whole, but our elements here of all are aspects of learning. And at last, we use statistic methods for the analysis of math data. Concerning the techniques of data collection, we use classroom observation. We went to school and see whether teachers really included culture in their activity and to which extent. We also use interview with various people, and for people we cannot meet, we use questionnaires. Now, our work is not general as a book written by a specialist on research or on teaching. Our work is limited in KIKWIT area. So don't ask us to tell you about other areas. And therein, we are very concerned with schools. And the research was done in the period 2024 and 2025. As to the content of the work, in chapter 1, we discussed key concepts: culture, identity, language, and related concepts to these cultural crises identity crisis, language, let's say language formation, how language are formed, and other such items. This was simply not to insist on anthropology, sociology, and linguistics, but to tell you that identity, culture, and language are very important. We have to preserve them. If we lose them, we are ourselves lost. In the second chapter, then we spoke of Congolese culture and identity. Is there really a Congolese culture, or should we speak of Congolese cultures? Because DRC is a mosaic of ethnic groups. Some sources speak of 2,000 ethnic groups, others even 400, please, 400 ethnic groups. 200 ethnic groups for some sources and 400 ethnic groups. Each ethnic group has got its own culture and its own identity. Fortunately for our country, the majority of people, 84%, belong to the Bantu family. Being in the Bantu family, they share similarities of languages, similarities of culture, and similarities of what? Of identity. So we can speak of a one real Congolese culture and identity. But today, in the area of KIKWIT, this culture and this identity are being distorted, are being destroyed. Next, in the third chapter, because we have to collect material to teach culture from textbooks, we try to evaluate briefly currently used textbooks in this area. Let me tell you, we listed 27 textbooks. There are others which are seldom used. 27 textbooks, meaning that each teacher uses the book he wants. Each school uses the textbook it wants. So there is a confusion. But of these 27 textbooks, only 8 contains some elements of Congolese culture. This represents only 29.6%. Not good. We also examined, evaluated lessons attended in school. Of the 20 lessons we attended, only one teacher tried to include Congolese culture. This represents 5 out of 100, 5%. See, it is not acceptable. That is why we said in the last chapter we have to suggest ways of presenting, of including, of teaching Congolese cultural aspects. And we are allowed, we have legal basis. The Programme National d'Anglais allows us to teach culture. You have many specialists who insist on the inseparability of foreign language teaching and the culture, including local culture of the learners, and we have the International Conference of Canada in 2015 about the teaching of foreign languages and culture. You also have the conference, International Conference of Alger in 226, which insists also on this. So we are right to insist, to appeal for the inclusion of culture in the teaching of this. After some fundamentals which exist, the teacher must know the culture and mostly the culture of the learners. He must select books, textbooks, good ones allowed by the Educational Ministry. He must select text because our teaching of culture will proceed from reading passages. We suggested some lessons to show how effectively to teach elements of culture. We have a list of lessons, all the activities of English language teaching, be it vocabulary activities, grammar activities, dictation, composition, conversation, all the activities exercise. We have seen and proved that it is possible to include the cultural elements in English language teaching activities. Dear President of the jury, dear members of the jury, this is the sum of my research.
Thank you very much, Mr. You can keep the seat. Sit down. Now we're going to invite examiners. And according to the regulation, each examiner is going to take 15 minutes maximum examining the recipient, MASALAY. We begin with Professor Kambale from Okafuki ISP. If he is online, please take the floor and examine the recipient. Is Professor Kambale online, please? If not, we will come to Professor Kambale as soon as possible so we can go over with another examiner, Professor Mwala from Kinshasa, who is also intervening online. Are you ready, Professor Mwala? Professor Mwaba online, are you with us, please? Look like they're not ready yet, so we may invite Professor Connie. We will come back to the other two professors later on. Meanwhile, Professor Connie can take the floor to examine the recipient. You have the floor, Professor Connie.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Please With great pleasure, I read the dissertation of Mr. MASALAY. Indeed, it falls within the scope of my research, crisis of culture is one of the topics in my research. During 2 years, I conducted research on endangered languages. I made works on 300 languages. So I understand very well the topic and what Mr. MASALAY studied on his dissertation. Mr. MASALAY, in short, you say that there is a lack of lesson or teaching of future aspects in the school textbook in KIKWIT and in area. I think that the problem is not the lack of textbook on aspect cultural, but teachers, English teachers, do not explain or do not teach Congolese culture in the classroom. I have a few number of observations to make, so we will discuss with you. I will go by comment and question. First, let's go on page 23. There are two concepts, I mean, that's not give good explanation. You say that various factors called culture killers contribute to the death of languages. For the purpose of research, you think of following. First, cultural colonization. Second, linguistic. Third, glottophagy. And absence of language promotional policy. And the end, you state on intra-ethnic marriage. I have one observation. On the point B, that you call linguistics, you say this is down by extra-linguistic factors. It is, for instance, a process applied by a state which imposes the use of foreign languages in classification. I think that the problem here is not linguistics. Linguistics is the phenomenon in this class. The problem here is the foreign languages. Foreign languages are killers, are linguistics, not the linguistics as a phenomenon. And when you say glottophagy and linguistics are the same terms, the difference is of the term etymology. Glottophagy is from Greek, linguistics from Latin. I mean, I think of my point of view, this point is not glottophagy, it's problem, but the problem of dominant languages. For me, cultural killers you said here are first cultural colonization Second, foreign languages. Third, dominant language. Okay. For our country, it's not simply a matter of the absence of a language promotion. I am a teacher of social linguistics. The problem is a lack of linguistic policy in our country. Let's go on the page 28 and 29, where we discuss on page 28, we discuss on food and drinks of our country, of our culture. We discuss of symbols. On the page 29, dressing style, judicial house building. Why not to put some illustration, some pictures to illustrate what you call food, dressing styles, symbols in our formal culture. I have a question on page 31. When you are speaking on sacred animals, in the third paragraph, sacred animals, you say they are respected and somewhat yeah. You write the same shows provide us with sacred animals of some countries. The goat in India, the elephant in Thailand, the crocodile in Burkina Faso, the cat in Japan. Why not sacred animals from Congo, from KIKWIT and area? This is my first question. Will write and answer the second question. On page 34. Second paragraph. About the language. You say, no one can prove his cultural identity by another means except by the language of the cultural community which he claims to belong. I have a question. What about men or women who don't say the mother tongue or the language of his group, ethnic group? They have not identity. We have here many students, many persons who don't speak their own language. On the page 29. 39, excuse me.
39.
39. Line 1. Imala. With this name is settled. The name of Abakwini. People complete by Pembu Abujikama. When one says Urabakwini and wisdom, people complete by Pembu Abujikama. I think it's not correct. My knowledge of this proverb, Bala, say that when one says Urabakwini, people complete by Kiafa Wimbu. That means when one will follow the brother sister in law, that means they are friends from the village. On page 47. Yeah.
Yes.
And the last paragraph, when we discuss on the situation of textbook today, we say that there is 47 situation of textbook today.
Yes.
We say that there is a book written by they do not teachers in schools use the textbook at their disposal, be them authorized or not. They do not care about official instruction on the use of textbook in our country. Whether the textbooks they have reflects pupils' realities or not, whether they are at the level of pupils or not, does not matter. Then I have a question. What is the FSP role on this matter? It is possible for our English department to resolve this kind of problem. There is implementation, there is official instructions, but the textbook are not respected in secondary school. On page 48, we say that the authorized book has no educational value. I don't know why this kind of textbook are used in schools when there is no educational value. On page 50, do you think that it's not good to cheat the text of Martin Luther King, who said, I have a dream, because this text of Martin Luther King is a very good text for une nécro-littérature. En français, on dit que c'est un texte fondateur de la liberté des Noirs, de réclamer la liberté et l'égalité face au blanc. Est-ce que vous pensez que pour vous, ce ne serait pas correct, ce ne serait pas important d'enseigner ça aux élèves? Je crois que je dois vous remercier. Le texte est très bon, le contenu est très bon. Si vous pouvez répondre à cette petite question. J'ai dû parler en anglais pour me lancer le français pour le grand public. Les jurys qui est anglophone, qui essaient de parler de cette avis. Et du coup, to my questions.
Thank you, Professor. I thank you for your observations, which I consider important. To come to the questions, sacred animals. I have spoken of sacred animals as constituting part of the culture, and I have mentioned as illustration in my work some sacred animals which illustrate some nations, Japan, China, Burkina Faso, etc., and also DRC. I have spoken of the leopard. But Professor wanted me also to speak of sacred animals in KIKWIT and area. Since I began with nations, Japan, Burkina Faso, China, etc., I thought it was better for me to continue at the same level with nations. That is why I spoke of at the top level of our country, the sacred animal is the leopard. Of course, there exist sacred animals at the level of clans, the level of tribes and ethnic groups. They exist. Cultural identity. I said the fundamental element which mark the cultural identity is language. Professor asked me, what about the thousands of people who don't know their ethnic languages, who don't speak their ethnic languages? Don't they have an identity? To answer this question, I'm going to take just a simple example. You know, Professor, when you go to the village, you say, I am Mbana. But you speak no word of Kimbana, people will have a negative attitude toward you. When people were on propaganda for elections, some of my people, cousins, the Bapende, who went in Gungu territory for the propaganda, when they said, I am Mupende from here, my village is the one you see there, my uncle is Anthony, I am Mupende. The Bapende asked one question, speak in Kipende. And when the person did not speak Kipende, they said, you may go back. You are not Kipende. So, here they say, identity may be proved by many other factors, not only the language, but the language, the ethnic language, the national language is the most fundamental factor which marks the identity of a person, of a people, of a group. In Mbala, Ulaba Kwiniti. When they say Ulaba Kwiniti, it's proverbial. How the other people complete. You say, they say, he follows his brother-in-law or his sister-in-law because they are already familiar in the village. They are friends in the village. That is the same. That is the same. The other, in another variant of Uganda, we say, it means he follows him because in the past, they already live in a good relationship. And if they are friends, it means they are in good relationship. So it's the same. Speaking of textbooks today, it is a confusion. What is the role of ISP? What is the role of the ISP? I swear here, I must say, the ISP have failed in one of their missions. One of the missions attributed to ISP is not only teaching students, but also publishing textbooks for secondary school. So if we are in this confusion of textbooks, I think we have also to blame ourselves to some extent. So these textbooks, why then books not allowed? Because there is no restriction in this country. That is why any person can write whatever he wants and he makes it circulated in school. So the situation is not very good. It is a real confusion. Martin Luther King said, I have a dream. Will it be good to introduce this as a text to teach pupils here in Africa, in Congo? Yes. I have a dream tells us the situation of racism. When we speak of the situation of racism, we speak of the situation of culture. So Martin Luther King is a great figure we can refer to in teaching in our secondary schools.
Okay, Mr. Masalay, thank you so very much for your reaction to Professor Tony's. I will just remind you of his main concerns regarding your work, so that when you go back and sit down to improve it, you take into account these observations. Professor Tony said that it's not so much the linguicide which is a cause of the death of Congolese language, culture, but rather foreign languages which have become so dominant that they tend to colonize Congolese culture. He also wanted you to make sure that glottophagy and linguicide are just synonyms from Latin and Greek. There is no basic difference between that. The true problem, according to Professor Cody, is the government linguistic policy. What are the government? We can use the plural here with the government because it is a collective noun. What are the government doing about the promotion of Congolese culture or cultures through the teaching of languages in general, and especially the teaching of English in the DRC? He was also a little bit worried that you didn't quite insist on Congolese animals. You spend more time on foreign countries, Japan, Thailand, etc., etc. And then we ended with the fact that textbooks were not respected in classroom. how could your Department of English, not only at ISP, KIKWIT, but in all the pedagogical institutions, solve this issue, this problem? You yourself gave a very interesting answer saying that in fact, the ISPs have failed in one of their key missions, which is teaching materials production, publishing textbooks to teach English. That was a very, very good answer. But are we going to stay just at the level of the observation that they failed? What do we do with the failure now? Because the question will remain. They fail, but what do we have to do?
We have to stand up.
To stand up.
Yes, and produce
and fight. Ok, thank you very much. Nous allons encore essayer d'entrer en contact avec le professeur Ouaba qui est en train d'insister. Nous espérons qu'il est maintenant en ligne. Si vous pouvez cliquer sur le lien pour le mettre en ligne. Sinon, alors, vous préparez à intervenir sur WhatsApp.
dans les liens. Sur WhatsApp.
Ok. Puisque la technologie continue de faire des caprices, nous n'allons pas nous arrêter là. Nous allons continuer. Alors, je crois que les gens en ligne, on va essayer avec eux après. On va essayer avec eux après. Now, I, as not as president, I'm taking the floor as an examiner. Just before the co-supervisor, who went back to the class this morning, and the supervisor, the professor employed above. So it's my turn, I can take the floor with your permission. Mr. MASALAY.
Yes, Professor.
This is indeed a sound masterpiece. Appreciate and congratulate you very much on your efforts.
Thank you very much.
Come out with such interesting results of our study. Except that only we are going to go through the pages for a few observations. On the title page, you see,
I am there.
you just said mémoire de DEA présentée et soutenue par MASALAY ou MASALAY. This is, I find it too laconic as a formulation. The formula is, I think, mémoire présentée et défendue en vue de l'obtention du diplôme d'études approfondies. Toute cette formule doit être présente là-bas. Études approfondies, c'est ça que vous mettez entre parenthèses DEA. Parce que how many people are going to, especially foreigners, they just come and read easily your memoir, they see DEA, DEA, they won't be able to interpret and to see what it means. You must write the full phrase, the traditional phrase which is usually written on thesis and memoir. Now we go inside the word itself. I see, of course, that in French, sometimes we do use what we call présent historique.
Yes.
Présent historique, but this does not very much fit the English language. For example, on page 10, you see still in 2023, some university professors we have a reference time in the past. You have to make the 10th year in the past. They had simple past tense, okay? The présent historique does not go well hand in hand with English, okay? You see that everywhere you use it, especially when you have a past tense reference, you have also to harmonize tense. On page 11, in your techniques of data collection, you have one technique called questionnaire. What kind of questionnaire was it? Open or closed answer questionnaire. On page 12, division of the work, you forgot to include the conclusion. conclusion is also part of the division of work, okay? Which you have to introduce in the introduction, in terms of what being tautological. In the introduction, you must also speak about your conclusion. The reader must know to what conclusion you came. So the conclusion, I did something here for you, because the conclusion, generally, do you remember what the conclusion generally includes? The conclusion to a research work. What does it include?
Generally, some kind of summary of what has been written about.
Summary, that's the danger, because you...
And it may also include some last suggestions.
Exactly. So the conclusion is basically focused on the synthesis of the work results, okay? The statement whether your hypothesis has been confirmed or not. Sorry, just a minute, sorry. Nous avons vu que la ligne dans le commercial intervenait à WhatsApp, on propose utiliser le plateau de WhatsApp pour les plus là. Ok, peut-être que nous en profitons, non pas encore vous perdre. Vous pouvez faire un appel vidéo. Oui, secrétaire général. Il est là. Non, là, il est connecté, ça donne bien, moi je me vois dans mon appareil. Par exemple, j'ai appelé, oui, continue. Conclusion that he said, first is on it is on the synthesis of the work result, and then you make a statement whether your hypothesis is confirmed or not, and in the third place, you make suggestions and recommendations, okay, to English language teachers, to school authorities or educational authorities, and even to the government, okay? What should be done to improve this aspect of the problem? Okay, you have on page 12, sorry, page 16, you have also spoken about the hierarchy of cultures. Okay? You suggest here that you enhance this section of your work with references to those racist philosophers like Joseph de Gobineau, who made a human scale on which the black people were placed at the bottom of the scale, very close to the apes, très près des grands singes. Ça c'est le noir. After that came the red, it means the Indians. After that you had the yellow, which means the Chinese and Japanese. And the perfect race, according to him, was the Aryans, the white people. That's where the establishment of the white supremacy started. If you can go back a little bit to those racist things, before Nietzsche applied Charles Darwin's theory of evolutionism, which Nietzsche applied to human society, saying that what happens in nature should also be what happens in society, which means the stronger eats the weaker. The stronger eats the weaker, the stronger takes all, or the winner takes all. This is what's happening even today in our geopolitical matters. On page 20, you have created a tale there with then provincial identity, with nothing coming after the subtitle like that, okay? If the page is finished, then you have to write the subtitle on the next page. You cannot just leave it like suspending, like the dog's tail. Hein? Il est là. Bon, on peut d'abord l'autoriser. Ok, professeur, vous êtes prêt maintenant. Vous pouvez intervenir. Reconnexion. Alors, vous pouvez intervenir, professeur. C'est en anglais, of course. Oui, professeur, vous pouvez aller. Nous vous écoutons.
factors. Because the topic is polygamy. Is there any value in polygamy that he is promoting the knowledge? That's my question. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Professor Waba.
Good.
Thank you very much. Okay, now it's silent.
Yes, Professor.
I hope that you follow what we say.
Yes, though with some problems.